There is one common theme that almost everyone who experiences anxiety can relate to. In this video, I explain how and why most anxiety is actually social in nature, and why that matters when it comes to feeling more at ease in anxious moments. If you deal with anxiety, this video's for you. Hi folks, I'm Bratt from Heart and Oak Therapy, supporting better, brighter lives. We're therapists who do regular videos on mental wellness and give practical ideas and tips to help make your life happier and more fulfilling. So hit the subscribe button to keep in the loop. As a therapist, I have more conversations about anxiety than any other problem people experience. Because I've had so many of these conversations, I couldn't help but ask myself, what's similar from person to person? Like, how are these experiences the same, even though they have their own unique differences? After a couple years of doing this work, a light bulb went off in my head one day when I realized that so many people's experiences of anxiety relate back to their relationships and social connections. In other words, there are distinct relational themes that tie different people's experiences of anxiety together. Through helping people address their diverse experiences of anxiety, I've seen how realizing the specific social concerns at the heart of their anxiety can help them feel more empowered to take action in ways that make a big difference. So let's dive in to how that works. Anxiety is typically described as the emotional response to anticipated negative events or experiences. It draws our attention toward what could happen in the interest of avoiding negative outcomes. In this way, even though we often don't find it to be helpful, it is primarily concerned with our safety. Now, we usually think of safety in terms of our physical well-being, but as relational creatures, our social well-being is also important. While we may not need other people's acceptance in order to survive physically, things like dignity, esteem, value, and worth actually carry a lot of weight in the social world. If you're skeptical, just ask anybody who's ever considered ending their own life when they're dealing with rejection or exclusion or some other kind of social alienation. I think that examples like these really show us that belonging matters in a big way when it comes to thinking about our sense of well-being in a more holistic way. The importance of belonging is really clear when we look at social anxiety specifically. Most people who identify as having social anxiety describe it as fears and worries around exclusion and rejection or humiliation. But how does this common social denominator relate to other forms of anxiety? It's really all about context and taking a deeper look at why we feel anxious about the things we do. If you're trying to make sense of your own feelings of anxiety, it can be useful to start with a question like, what particular fears or worries does your anxiety relate to the most? In other words, what are the fears or worries at the heart of your anxiety? The more specific you can be here, the easier it is to really understand what your anxiety is all about. If you look in the description, I've also linked to a post from the Heart and Oak blog that goes into more detail and includes other questions that can help you clarify the target of your anxiety with even more depth and accuracy. So let me share a few examples just to illustrate what I mean. Not too long ago, I had a conversation with somebody who is feeling anxious and unsafe after moving to a big new city. On the surface, it looked like he was experiencing agoraphobia, fearing that other people were going to do him harm. But when we really got to the heart of his anxiety, he was ultimately afraid that something outside of his control would ultimately damage his relationship with his partner, which was a major pillar of stability for him while adjusting to these big new changes. So, even though we might not call his problem social anxiety per se, it was very much about the fear of losing a vital social connection. I had another client who described feeling anxious about his health, worrying that he might get really sick with something like cancer. It would have been short-sighted of me to just assume that his anxiety was only about his health and that alone, because the more we talked about it, the clearer it became that he was ultimately afraid of losing his chance to get to know people in his family on a deeper level and cultivate more fulfilling relationships with them if he was to get sick and lose his life. Just to share one more example, I also worked with a young woman who was terribly anxious about a lot of things. Aside from her own health, she worried a lot about her partner driving without her in the car and catastrophes happening like house fires and not having the ability to stop them. As we put her anxiety in context, she made it nice and clear that she had been through a lot of loss in her life, and she was understandably afraid of losing her closest, most supportive connection, which was with her partner. All three of these examples do a really nice job of showing us that anxieties that can easily be misunderstood as individual concerns are really, at their heart, relational in nature. So what does all this mean? How can it be helpful and empowering being able to find the relational concerns at the heart of your anxiety? It's all about making the context around your anxiety more tangible and therefore easier to work with in effective ways. In all three of the examples that I shared in this video, those people were able to directly address the relational concerns at the heart of their anxieties and eventually feel way more at ease. Their anxieties went from being bad enough to require professional help to way, way more manageable. There are reasons behind everything, and anxiety is no exception to that. Recognizing the concerns behind your anxiety can give you something tangible to work with, which can ultimately help you feel more empowered and capable of managing your anxiety at its root. Have you found success at reducing your own feelings of anxiety by addressing troubling relationship situations? Whether you have, or if you have any questions that the Heart Note community might be able to help with, please let us know in the comment section. If this video has been interesting or helpful, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button below. For more helpful videos related to therapy and mental wellness, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification icon to make sure you stay in the loop. Take care until next time, and keep doing the things that help you live a better, brighter life.